guys, welcome welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my labor and delivery story part 2. I believe in the last video I left off on when I was in the recovery room post-op, and I'm going to be talking about my experience on the ward. Alright, so long story short, post-op, the what do you call them, the people who like move things around for patients, and porters, they're called porters in these Jamaican hospitals. They came and got me on the gurney and took me up to the ward. Now, before they came and got me, I don't remember if I mentioned this in my other story, but the anesthesiologist came up to me and she told me that my spinal block could last for another 3 to 4 hours, but it should be fine because by then the nurses on the postnatal ward would have gotten me morphine or some other pain medication for pain management. So I was like, okay, cool. So they get me up to the ward, they flop me onto my bed. I don't have my phone, I don't have my hospital bag or my diaper bag because it was an emergency C-section. So I guess everybody was just like flustered and rushing around. No idea why. Because it wasn't even that deep in my opinion, really. But yeah, I didn't have any of my stuff and I was just up there laying down. No feeling from around here down. And I was just chilling. So there were I had my son at around Christmas time. And sometimes some missionary people, I don't know exactly who they were, and I was so out of it I didn't think to ask them who they were. And a lady came up to me and she asked to see my arm. Like, she greeted me, she was real sweet. She asked to see my arm and I showed her, and she was like, oh, you have a baby boy, where is he? And I told her that he's downstairs in the NICU. And she's like, oh girl, everything is gonna be all right, everything is gonna be okay, God has your baby. And I was like, I know. And she gave me a little thing which I was really thankful for. Those people were really sweet. Yeah, I had no idea what time it was, but assuming that maybe it was a couple of minutes before visiting hours, because I believe that visiting hours started at around 12 or 12:30 at that hospital. And like, everyone had their visitors and I was there like laying down. They still didn't bring my stuff up from the labor ward, so I didn't have my phone to even like update my family that I had the baby and what happened to me and XYZ. So after visiting hours ended, the porter finally came up with my stuff, and I was like, all right, cool. So got my phone out, texted my family, let them know what happened. They were worried sick because they were wondering like, why were they hearing from me? They didn't know that I was going to end up with a C-section, because as far as everyone knew before I went into labor, my son was in cephalic position. Even the day before I went into labor, I had my last postnatal appointment and that nurse told me that he was in cephalic, when in reality he was breech. So no one knew to prepare for that. Like, if I knew he was breech, I would probably went to the hospital as soon as I felt the contractions. But I thought everything was gonna be a-okay. So I waited. So I got my phone out. I started gaining a little bit of feeling down to my waist. So there was not really much to do during that period of time. It was pretty uneventful. Like, another patient rode up around this time, and she was a really sweet girl. I'm gonna call her Tina, and Tina was a year younger than me. So me and Tina, we were having a conversation, and she was letting me know that I kicked her out of her spot for the C-section. She had pre-eclampsia, and she wasn't due actually until the first week of January, and we are in the third week of December. My son was born the week before Christmas, so second week of December, thereabout. And she was saying that she was having complications and they were going to cut her that morning, But I came in, my son was breech, I was in active labor, so her C-section got pushed back, and she came up after me because they did her procedure after they did mine. So Tina was real sweet. She was telling me about her house that she was planning to close on as soon as she came out of the hospital, and all of the things that she had planned but got knocked out because her doctor had to send her to the hospital for very very high blood pressure, and she never got to go home after that. She also had a little boy, and her son was next to my son in the NICU, so I thought that was pretty cool too. So even though I was like so upset about what happened during my delivery that I didn't really want to socialize or talk to the other moms on the ward, even though they were like, but some of them were real nice. She was cool. She was right there. Similar situation, so she could relate to what I was going through and what I was feeling. So yeah, I'm going to say maybe like an hour and a half or 2 hours have passed now since I came upon the ward, and I was now regaining feeling in my left leg. Now, if you remember from the labor and delivery story, when they gave me the spinal block, my right leg shot out, which is not normal. If anything like that happens, it means that they hit a nerve, and that is a no-no. But they told me that that was normal. That's not normal. Don't make anybody at any public hospital, if you end up having to go to a public hospital, tell you that that is normal. That is not normal. So I figured probably that's why I didn't gain feeling in both legs at the same time. If you're a medical practitioner and you want to confirm or deny that that is the case, you can go ahead and do that below. That's just my speculation. So when my feeling in my left leg came back, I started feeling a little crampy, and these cramps were like menstrual, I'd say around menstrual strength. I had really bad menstrual cramps when I menstruate, so I will describe it like that. And I saw a pink nurse pass by. I don't know exactly what kind of nurses the pink nurses are, apart from annoying nurses. That's what I call them because of my experience with them on the ward. So I called to one and I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit of cramping. The anesthesiologist told me that I should be getting a drip with medication and pain medicine. So come hook me up. So she's like, she can't do it, and the white nurses are on lunch. So as soon as a white nurse comes, then she will have the white nurse come and assist me. So I was like, alright, cool. So I was there, and like the pain was getting worse, but as the pain was getting worse, I was getting more feeling in my lower body. So like I was there waiting, like I saw the pink nurses come back from their lunch because the bed that I was in was right next to the entrance to the ward. Ain't nobody coming to like help the girl out. So it was getting worse, and it was to the point where I was like screaming in pain on the ward. And a different pink nurse came, and she had like a stink attitude. She's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, usually I don't tolerate like people talking to me like that. And I was like, I am in excruciating pain. And then this, I don't want to swear, this female was like, that's normal, you just had a baby. And I was like, I am aware that it is normal, that's why they give you pain medication. And she walked away. So I was told previously by friends and other people who I know gave birth at that hospital as well, that if you don't make a bag of noise, you don't get through with anything. So I started to make a bag of noise, and a student nurse, a UTech student nurse, came over to me and she was like, mother, what's wrong? So I repeated the same thing to her, and then she looked at my hand, and she looked at my hand to see if I had an IV access, which I did from the C-section. And she was like, oh my god, they're supposed to give you some morphine. 1 minute, I'm going to get you some. So she leaves, and then after she leaves, that same pink nurse came and asked me if I was okay. Her whole attitude changed, I guess, because she saw that the student registered nurse came to attend to me. So I was like, and and I didn't answer her. So shortly thereafter, like at this point, I was like in tears bawling because the pain was so bad. Like, bear in mind, I just had a baby, so the after pains are going to be like bad in itself if I had had a natural birth. But I didn't have a natural birth. I had a C-section. So I was post-op, gaping wound in my lower abdomen as well as in my womb from the placenta. I was in pain. And I don't think I was ever in public acting like that before. But you got to do what you gotta do when you're in these public hospitals. You can't stay there and die, and then you're going to hear that, oh, we didn't know that the patient was experiencing this. So, registered nurse came and she put the medication in my IV access, but it was already like so bad because I was like crippled by the pain. She gave me a shot, and I don't know I was in the shot, but your girl was afterwards. But the pain was gone and I was cool. I was very, very loopy. So I don't remember exactly or much of what happened after that, but I knew that shortly after, and based on the time that this took place, I'm going to assume that it was maybe like 3:30, 4:30, between those hours, because the next visiting hours started at 5. And at this point, my family knew that I was upstairs at the ward and they could come and visit me during that visiting hours. So they came, and I guess the other pink nurses, they came to give me a sponge bath to be presentable for when my family came to visit. So they came and they gave me a sponge bath. In my hospital bag video, if you didn't watch that, go watch it now. I mentioned a list of things that they give you to go to the hospital. I'm actually going to do a video on the things on that list that I actually used as a mom who did a C-section, and some of the things that you may need, because in all honesty, that list tells you what you need for a natural birth, but it doesn't really tell you what you need for a C-section birth. So I'm going to do that video maybe in a couple of weeks, because I do have some pre-filmed videos. I'm just filming this one because it was requested. I wasn't going to. So they gave me a sponge bath, and if I was if I was not on the medication that they gave me, I would be so self-conscious because they were getting all up in and all over, and you're bleeding postpartum, so they're cleaning off that from your regions and putting on a new pad, and generally don't have people do those things for you, so it was kind of embarrassing, but I was loopy of the drugs, so I didn't necessarily care. But once that wore off, I was like, oh my god, that was so embarrassing. I always say to like people who are not moms yet, or people who are about to be moms, that if you're a very shy and shameful person, like just let go of that, because labor and delivery is going to strip you down to your most primal. So my family comes to visit me, and I was like, I could barely talk to them. My head was spinning, like I was sitting up because they gave me dinner as well right before they came, and I think hospital food is known not to be the greatest. I had like a jelly consistency mashed potatoes, pumpkin that was oddly very, very sweet, and stewed chicken. And I was that the first yes, that was the first day. So I had got solid food on the first day for my dinner after my C-section. And I think they had me on a liquid diet at first. So for lunch they gave me water, tea, and apple juice. And I guess they decided that I don't know if it is a case where I was supposed to have gotten that meal, because I was just a couple of hours post-op, so I don't think I was supposed to have got that meal. But public hospitals, so whatever. Thank God nothing never bust out or tear out, and I was able to go home after 3 days. But yeah, they came to visit me and whatever. Now as I mentioned, I did a C-section. So I would have to be in the hospital for 3 days. Now, much of those 3 days are pretty uneventful, mothers around the world with their kids, and they would talk, where is your baby, where is your baby. After a while, I realized that I could go down and spend the whole day in the NICU with my son, so that's what I started to do. But the next day, and this is what blows my mind, like, this is a hospital filled with women who just have babies, and this side of the world were for women who not only just gave birth to children but were also post-op. And I know that it is important for you to like walk around and stuff after you have your C-section, so they know that you're going to be okay once you go home. But I feel like there's a time and place for everything. So the next day, 3 more mothers came in post-op, and I was there laying on my bed chilling, on my phone. There's nothing else to do. I was real comfortable. My bed was next to an outlet. I was talking to Tina, and a girl came in that night after Tina, after visiting ours. So, the 3 of us there, we were getting chummy or whatever. And a porter came and she was like, come, 3 more mothers are coming in, so you guys are going to have to move down. Get your stuff and move down. So I was like, isn't that your job to get my stuff and move me down? Like, I can walk at this point, fine. But Tina, because of her condition, even though we had our babies on the same day, a couple of hours apart, her condition was a little bit more, than mine. So I was determined to go home maybe even earlier than the 3 days. So I was up and about. I made them decatheterize me so I could go to the bathroom by myself and whatever. But Tina was still catheterized, and it was a bit harder for her to move around because her legs were swollen before she had the baby, and they were still swollen actually. So like, these porters like did dead ass expected us to like get all of our shit, like baby's hospital bag, our basin, and everything that we has put out around the area to make ourselves comfortable. They expected us to move all of that down. So after looking at her for a really long time, and I realized that sis was serious, I was like, okay. Apparently what they do is like they move you down day by day. So there were empty beds towards the end of the room, because I guess those people had been discharged before and they had like changed the piece of cloth that they put on the bed. I wouldn't call it a sheet. Like, this is a public hospital. Like, funding is non-existent. If you don't come with a sheet, you're going to have to sleep on the cloth or sleep on a bare mattress. Like, that was how raw in the trenches it was there. So I was still hooked up to my IV access with my medication at this point. They were giving me pain meds through the access anymore. They were just giving me like pills. They will call you from your bed to go up to the nurse's station to get your pills or your injections. So I didn't have like pain meds going through my IV anymore. I just had like saline and antibiotics. So it was kind of hard to like move I don't know what it's called, like medical people, you know what it's called. You guys did it on my last video, you could do it on this one again. The 3 thing that all of your medication hangs on, and then it was hard to move that, my hospital bag, my baby stuff, and my basin down to a new bed. So the bed that I got on, I'm going to show you. I don't know if it is going to even show up on camera. The bed was literally like this shape, a V, and I slept on that one night. And I was like, so up in my mind, I was like, why is this bed on the word? Like, do they see that it is out the bed shape like this, guys? And I guess I didn't realize that was the case when I went there, but I was like, I absolutely cannot stay on this bed. So I was tired and I went to bed that night, and early the next morning I woke up at around like 6. They wake you up that early because the student guy knows are gonna have to come around check on your bleeding, push down on your stomach to see if your womb is going back to the same size, and ask you if you're okay and if you go to the bathroom and if you fart or whatever. So we have to wake up at around that time. When I woke up, I realized that one of the other beds was empty, and it was a discharge time because you get discharged at visiting hours. You can't move unless it's visiting hours. So once you get cleared to go home, sometimes you get cleared from the night before and they tell you that you can go home at 12 the next day, or sometimes you get discharged in the morning and they tell you that you can go home at your 5 p.m. visiting hours, which is exactly what happened to me, but we're not there yet. So this is the day before I should get discharged. The mom that was on that bed, she was over it. She had her kid. She had on her clothes already. She bathed. She put on her clothes. She put on her baby clothes. And she was like, I want to come out of the hospital here and go me yard because them people not have no manners. Them not have no plug up here. I want to go me yard. I want to go me yard. Like, that was like, she literally like put on her full outfit. Her baby's full outfit. She had her baby in the cot. And she was ready to go, and bear in mind this is 6 a.m. so there's gonna be 6 hours before she can actually leave, and the guy still needed to like tend to her while she was there. But since she was out of the bed, the porter cleared the bed, and I was like, open bed, over there I go. And this bed was high up. It was high up, and bear in mind I'm just a couple of days goes up, so basically I guess you can do anything you want. There was like this ottoman nearby, so I pushed it to the side of the bed so I can use it to get on and off. That was good. And well, only issue is that where I was, there was no outlets. There was like a wall, a screening wall, and then behind that wall was an outlet, so I had to be getting up every second to go and check to see if my phone was okay there. And there are also mothers there that draw a chair and they were sitting next to their phones there. So that's where I spent my next day. Family came and visit. I wasn't really on the ward, so like the bed being high up wasn't really a bother to me. At this point I was spending most of my time in the NICU with my son. Let me know below if you guys want to know about my experience as a NICU mom. But yeah, the next day I was going to get discharged, and I was like, oh my god, thank you Jesus. Like, one of their rules to be discharged is that you have to pass, if you did a C-section, you have to pass gas, and you have to go number 2. And I was like on my phone every day, laxative foods that make you go number 2, and I was like sending it to my family. I said, when you come visit me, bring this, like me need to eat fish, go number 2 so I can go home. So the previous day they did that, and I did go number 2, and I was like when the student guy came and he's like, did you pass gas? And I was like, yes. And then he's like, all right, did you defecate? And I was like, yes. And he's like, okay, great, you get to go home today. And I was like, oh my god, yes. But like, I still wasn't happy because I didn't have my son with me. They told me when I gave birth to him that he would be downstairs in the NICU for observation for 2 days, and 2 days passed and he was not up there with me, and I was going to get discharged that evening and he was still not discharged himself. Spoiler alert, in case you guys watched that video, I didn't get to go home with my son until 3 days after I was discharged from the hospital, but I know that other mothers stay in the NICU for weeks and months, so I'm thankful that we didn't have a long stay there ourselves. So I was told that I was cleared to be discharged at 6 a.m. so I thought that they would let me go at 12. Well, the doctor told me that because the previous day my IV swelled up my hand I guess my vein couldn't bother anymore, so like all of the liquid and thing, it was in my skin, and they had to switch it from this hand to this hand, and like my hands were like a mess. I don't know if you guys can still see like the places where they put the IV. Like they had to redo it so many times, and they were like, all right, we're gonna watch you, so instead of going home at 12, we're gonna let you go home at 5. And I don't know who they were watching because once they told me that, I just got myself together and went downstairs to the NICU to spend the day with my son. Oh, I am missing a very important part of this story. I think it was the second night I was at the hospital. There was a mother who came in, and she, I don't know if she's a madwoman or they gave her the same medication that they gave me, and she had a different effect because it had a mellowing effect for me, but I know that that medication can make people go. So girl, at this point I was way at the end in my V-shaped bed, and she was newly post up, so she was the first bed at the door. So from sis came into the ward, she was singing on the top of her lungs, child, and like everybody was like, I want to see like something wrong with her, mad woman. Like, but I feel like it's the medication. Like I was convinced that she was a mad woman at first because this is a public hospital. Any kind of people can get around you at any time. Bear that in mind if you're going to have a child at a public hospital. Any type of people can be there because it's free. But in hindsight, it was probably the medication that she was on. So she was singing, and then she came in shortly before the last nightly visiting hour at 5. So her people came in, and I don't know what the nurses did or said to her. She had her baby with her, by the way, and she was cussing a bag of bad words. She was like FBBC all of the words them at the nurses them, and they gave us dinner because sometimes they do give us dinner during visiting hours, and she was trying to give her fresh out the belly because she did a C-section, fresh brand new baby girl Kool-Aid to drink. So the nurse was telling her that no, don't give the baby Kool-Aid to drink. Don't tell me what to do with your pitney, me I tell you what to do with your pitney. So like she was cussing and singing and intertwining between those two. So after visiting hours, a couple of hours later, she was still cussing, and I drifted off to sleep. Most of us drifted off to sleep. We're new mothers, and when the baby sleeps, you gotta sleep. So you were sleeping. I woke up at around midnight, and she was having a conversation very loudly with the nurses that were on the charge. So she was saying that she not have nobody, I just she and her baby, so then feel lower baby alone, and she was being like real boisterous, and bear in mind she's post up like just a couple of hours because she came in like earlier that day, incision fresh, everything still catheterized, and she was like creating a ruckus. So they gave her something to sedate her, and when they gave her something to sedate her, they tied her hands and feet to the bed. Now the rest of us on the ward were like, why are they doing this? Because when she comes to, she's not going to be pleased. And we were right, she was not pleased. They took her baby and brought the baby down to the NICU, and when she woke up, she was like besides herself. Which part my baby? Me not a baby father. Me not a body. Just me and my baby. Bear in mind now, the previous day, because this is the next day when she woke up, basically like early in the morning the next day, she had visitors. One of the persons who visited her was her daughter's father and her mother. So she had people, like she wasn't fooling anyone. And when I went down to spend the day with my son at the NICU, her daughter was actually down there. Obviously, the nurses in the NICU, they take care of the babies pretty fine. So they were just there to ensure that the baby was getting like her formula and not Kool-Aid and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a short snippet into the story of my experience on being on the ward at the same time as a mad woman. I'm not quite sure what happened with her and that baby. She came in right before I was going to get discharged, so I'm not sure if they let her have the baby.